I was allowed 3 hours. 3 hours to see the daughter I had not held in 8 years. 3 hours that cost me everything I owned. 3 hours that the Saudi government could revoke at any moment if my ex-husband changed his mind. My name is Jennifer McClain, and this is the story of how I lost my daughter to a country that does not believe mothers have rights. How I made one terrible decision that destroyed my entire life. And how, even now, after years of fighting, I still do not have her back. If you are a mother, I need you to imagine something. Close your eyes for just a moment and imagine your child being taken from you. Not through death, not through illness, but through law. Imagine knowing exactly where your child is, seeing photos of them online, knowing they are alive and breathing and growing, but being completely powerless to reach them. Imagine your child growing up without you, forgetting your voice, your face, your love, your existence. Imagine that happening not because you did anything wrong, not because you were a bad parent, but simply because you married the wrong person from the wrong country. That is my reality. That has been my reality for 8 years, and it could be yours if you do not understand what you are risking when you marry someone from Saudi Arabia. I met Tariq Al-Omari in Chicago in the summer of 2007. I was 26 years old, working as a registered nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in downtown Chicago. I loved my job. I loved the fast pace of the emergency room, the feeling of helping people on their worst days, the camaraderie with the other nurses and doctors. I had a good life. A small apartment in Wicker Park, a close group of friends, regular brunches with my parents who lived in the suburbs. I was happy. Or at least I thought I was happy until I met Tariq. He was 29, finishing his PhD in engineering at University of Illinois, Chicago. We met at a coffee shop in Wicker Park on a Saturday morning in June. The place was crowded, every table full, and he asked if he could share my table. I was reading a book, lost in my own world, but I looked up and said yes. We started talking, just small talk at first. He asked what I was reading. I asked what he was studying, but the conversation kept going, kept deepening, kept becoming more interesting. We talked about his research on renewable energy systems, about my experiences in the ER, about growing up, him in Jeddah and me in suburban Chicago, about our families, our dreams, our fears. 3 hours passed without either of us noticing. When he finally looked at his watch and said he had to go, he asked for my number. I gave it to him without hesitation. We started dating, slowly at first. Coffee dates, then dinner dates, then long walks along the lakeshore. Tariq was different from anyone I had dated before. He was intelligent, thoughtful, curious about everything. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He was ambitious but not arrogant. He was confident but not overbearing. He made me laugh. He made me think. He made me feel seen in a way I had not felt before. After about 4 months, he told me he was Muslim, and that if we were going to get serious, I needed to know that about him. He said his faith was important to him, though he admitted he was not the most observant Muslim. He prayed sometimes, but not 5 times a day. He fasted during Ramadan but did not always make it to the mosque. He said if we ever got married, I would need to convert to Islam, at least nominally, because his family would not accept the marriage otherwise. I was not particularly religious. I had been raised Presbyterian, went to church occasionally as a child, but had not been since high school. I believed in God in a vague way, but organized religion had never been important to me. The idea of converting to Islam seemed like a formality more than anything else. If it meant I could be with Tariq, if it would make his family happy, I did not see the harm. I started reading about Islam. I talked to an imam at a mosque near campus. I learned about the 5 pillars, about the beliefs, about the practices. It seemed beautiful in many ways. The emphasis on charity, on community, on submission to something greater than yourself. I said my shahada, the declaration of faith, 6 months into our relationship. I became Muslim. Tariq cried when I did it. He said he had been so afraid I would say no, that I would choose to leave him rather than convert. He said this meant everything to him, that we could now build a real future together. We got married 8 months later in a small ceremony at a mosque in Chicago. My parents came, though I could tell they were uncomfortable. My mom pulled me aside before the ceremony and said, "Are you sure about this, Jenny? You barely know him. You just converted to his religion. What if he changes once you are married? What if his family expects things from you that you do not want to give?" I brushed her off. I said, "Mom, I know what I am doing. Tariq is amazing. He respects me. He loves me for who I am. Everything is going to be fine." I believed it at the time. I really did. The first year of our marriage was wonderful. Tariq finished his PhD and got a job as an engineer at a company in Chicago. I continued working at the hospital. We had an apartment in Lincoln Park with a view of the park. We went out with friends, traveled to Michigan and Wisconsin on weekends, lived the life of young professionals in the city. Tariq never pressured me about religion. He said I could practice as much or as little as I wanted. He never asked me to wear hijab or change how I dressed. He said he loved me for who I was. When I got pregnant after a year and a half of marriage, Tariq was absolutely overjoyed. We found out we were having a girl, and I watched him cry during the ultrasound when we saw her on the screen. He said he wanted a daughter first, so she could be a big sister and help take care of younger siblings. He said girls were special, were precious, were gifts from God. Heidi was born on a cold March morning in 2009. 7 pounds, 2 ounces of perfect baby. When they placed her on my chest for the first time, I felt a love I had not known was possible. A fierce, protective, all-consuming love that made everything else in the world fade away. Tariq was a wonderful father in those early months. He would wake up in the middle of the night to help with feedings even though he had to work the next day. He changed diapers without complaint. He would sing to Heidi in Arabic, these beautiful lullabies his mother had sung to him. He was patient and gentle and devoted. But I started noticing changes in him when Heidi was about 6 months old. Small things at first. He wanted to know where I was all the time. If I went to the grocery store, he would text asking when I would be home. If I mentioned going out with friends from the hospital, he would ask a lot of questions. Who was going? Would there be men there? Why did I need to go? Was something wrong with spending time with him and Heidi? I told myself he was just adjusting to fatherhood, that he was protective because we had a new baby, that it was sweet that he wanted to spend time together as a family. But it felt suffocating sometimes. He also started talking more about religion, about how we needed to raise Heidi as a proper Muslim, about how I should start wearing hijab, at least when we went out, because I was a Muslim wife and mother now. About how we should be more observant, pray more, go to the mosque more often. I pushed back gently. I said I was still learning, still finding my way with Islam, that I was not ready to wear hijab, that Heidi was just a baby and we had plenty of time to figure out her religious education. Tariq did not argue, but I could tell he was not happy, and I could feel something shifting between us. Some fundamental incompatibility that had been hidden during our courtship, but was now emerging. When Heidi was about 8 months old, Tariq started talking about taking her to Saudi Arabia to meet his family. His parents and siblings were desperate to meet their granddaughter and niece. They had not been able to come to the wedding, and they had never met Heidi. He said it would just be a quick trip, maybe 2 weeks. I said I wanted to come with them. Tariq said no. It would be too expensive for all 3 of us to go. He said his mother was getting older and wanted some special time alone with her granddaughter. He said I should stay home and rest, that taking care of a baby was exhausting and I deserved a break. Something in my gut told me not to let him go, but I could not articulate why. I felt like if I said no, if I refused to let him take Heidi to meet his family, I would be the villain. I would be the difficult American wife keeping his daughter away from her Saudi family. So I ignored my instincts, and I said, okay, 2 weeks. Tariq and Heidi left on a Saturday morning in October of 2009. I drove them to O'Hare Airport. I kissed Heidi goodbye, her little face so sweet and innocent, completely unaware that this was the last time she would see me for years. Tariq promised he would call me when they landed, that he would send photos every day, that they would be back in 2 weeks. For the first few days, everything seemed fine. Tariq sent me photos of Heidi with his family, his mother holding her, his sisters playing with her. She looked happy, safe, loved. I missed her terribly, but I told myself it was good for her to know that side of her family. 2 weeks passed. Tariq called and said his mother was sick, that they needed to stay a little longer. Just a few more days. I said okay, but please not more than that. I miss her so much. He said of course. He missed me too. They would be home soon. 3 more days passed. Tariq called again. His mother had taken a turn for the worse. She might not have much time left. He needed to stay to be with her. Could I please be understanding? I said yes, but I need Heidi back. I miss her. She needs to be with her mother. Tariq said soon. I promise, just a little longer. That was the last time I spoke to him for 3 months. He stopped answering my calls. His phone went straight to voicemail every time. I tried calling his family's number, a number I had used before to call when he was visiting. No one answered. I left message after message. Please call me back. Please tell me what is happening. Please let me talk to my daughter. Nothing. Silence. I was going out of my mind with worry and fear. I had no idea if Heidi was okay, if she was safe, if something terrible had happened. I called the American Embassy in Riyadh. I explained the situation. They took my information and said they would look into it. 2 weeks later, the embassy called me back. They had located Tariq and Heidi. They were staying with Tariq's family in Jeddah. Both were healthy and safe. However, the embassy said there was nothing they could do to force Tariq to bring Heidi back to the United States. Saudi Arabia is not a Hague Convention country. There is no legal mechanism to force the return of children taken there. And because Tariq was a Saudi citizen and Heidi was his daughter, he had every legal right under Saudi law to keep her there. I said, but I am her mother. I am an American citizen. She is an American citizen. Surely someone can help me. The embassy official said, I understand your frustration, ma'am, but your husband has not committed a crime under Saudi law. In fact, under Saudi guardianship law, he has absolute authority over his children. Your daughter is also a Saudi citizen through her father. The U.S. government cannot force Saudi Arabia to return a Saudi citizen. I could not believe what I was hearing. My baby was on the other side of the world, and no one could help me get her back. I hired a lawyer in Chicago. We filed for custody in Illinois courts. The judge gave me full sole custody and ordered Tariq to return Heidi to the United States immediately. The order meant nothing. Saudi Arabia does not recognize U.S. court orders. There was no way to enforce it. I spent the next year trying everything I could think of. I contacted my congressperson. I contacted human rights organizations. I contacted journalists. Some people tried to help, but nothing worked. No one had any power to make Tariq bring Heidi back. He had all the power, and I had none. About 4 months after Heidi had left, I finally got an email from Tariq. It was cold, formal, like he was writing to a business associate. He said he had decided not to return to the United States. He had a better job opportunity in Saudi Arabia. His family was there. Heidi would be raised there as a proper Muslim girl. I was welcome to visit if I received his permission, but Heidi would not be returning to America. I read that email, and I felt like my world was ending. My daughter was gone. Really, truly gone. And there was nothing I could do about it. I flew to Saudi Arabia immediately. I did not have Tariq's permission, but I thought maybe if I showed up, if I could talk to him in person, If I could see Heidi, maybe I could make him see reason. Maybe I could convince him to at least let me have regular visits. I made it through customs at King Abdulaziz International Airport in Jeddah. I took a taxi to the address I had for Tariq's family home in a neighborhood on the north side of the city. The compound had high walls and a locked gate. I knocked and knocked. Finally, Tariq's brother came to the gate. He said Tariq was not there. He said I was not welcome there without Tariq's permission. He said if I did not leave, he would call the police. I said, please, I just want to see my daughter. Please let me see her. I am her mother. He said Tariq made the decisions about Heidi, not me. He shut the gate in my face. I stood outside that gate for 3 hours, crying, begging, pleading with anyone who came in or out. Finally, a police car showed up. The officers told me I needed to leave. They said I was trespassing, that I was causing a disturbance. They said if I did not leave immediately, and if I came back without permission, I would be arrested. I went to the U.S. consulate in Jeddah. A consular officer, a woman in her 40s with kind but tired eyes, listened to my story. She said, I am so sorry, Mrs. McClain. I wish I could help you. But Saudi Arabia has its own laws about custody and guardianship. Your ex-husband is a Saudi citizen. Your daughter is a Saudi citizen. Under Saudi law, fathers have absolute guardianship rights. Mothers have custody rights only under very specific circumstances, and those rights can be revoked easily. There is nothing the U.S. government can do to override Saudi law. I said, but I am her mother. Does not that matter? She said, not under Saudi law. Not unless your husband gives his permission for you to have access to her. I flew back to Chicago devastated, broken, empty. I had left everything I owned to get on that plane. I had spent all my savings. And I had achieved nothing. I was no closer to seeing Heidi than I had been before. I fell into a deep depression after that. I could barely function. I called in sick to work over and over until they let me go. I stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping, stopped doing anything except obsessing over how to get Heidi back. My parents were desperately worried about me. They tried to help, but there was nothing they could do. My friends did not know what to say. Eventually, I pulled myself together enough to get a new job, to start paying off the credit card debt I had accumulated, to try to put my life back together. But I was just going through the motions. My real life, my daughter, was on the other side of the world. About 18 months after Heidi had been taken, I received a letter from a lawyer in Saudi Arabia representing Tariq. The letter said that if I wanted to see Heidi, I would need to agree to certain conditions. I would be allowed to visit once per year for 3 hours. The visit would be supervised by a member of Tariq's family. I would not be allowed to be alone with Heidi at any point. I would not be allowed to discuss taking Heidi back to the United States or to say anything negative about Tariq or his family. If I violated any of these conditions, future visits would be denied. 3 hours. Once a year. Supervised. It was insulting. It was degrading. It was cruel. But it was also better than nothing. So I signed the agreement. The first visit was in the summer of 2011. Heidi was 2 years old. I flew to Jeddah, my heart pounding the entire flight. I had not seen my daughter in over a year and a half. She had been 6 months old when Tariq took her. Now she was a toddler. The visit was at Tariq's family home. I was led to a sitting room where Heidi was playing with toys. Tariq's sister Aisha sat in the corner watching us. Heidi looked at me like I was a stranger, because to her, I was a stranger. I tried to talk to her in English. She stared at me blankly. She only understood Arabic. She had forgotten English completely. Or maybe she had never really learned it. She had been so young when she was taken. I brought toys from America, stuffed animals, books, games. She was polite, but not really interested. When I tried to hug her, she pulled away and went to Aisha. She felt safe with Aisha, not with me. I spent 3 hours trying desperately to connect with a child who did not know me, trying to be her mother when she clearly saw me as just some strange foreign woman. When the 3 hours were up, Aisha said it was time for me to leave. Heidi waved goodbye politely, like you would wave to an acquaintance, not to your mother. I went back to my hotel room and sobbed. I had waited 18 months for that visit. I had spent thousands of dollars to get there, and my daughter did not even recognize me. The second visit was a year later. Heidi was 3. She still barely spoke English. She still called Tariq's mother Mama. When I tried to correct her, tried to tell her that I was her mama, Aisha stopped me. She said I was confusing the child. She said Tariq's mother was raising Heidi, so she was Mama. I said I am her mother. I gave birth to her. I am her mama. Aisha said, you gave birth to her, but you are not raising her. You see her for 3 hours once a year. That does not make you her mother. The words cut like a knife, but I could not argue, because in many ways she was right. I was not raising Heidi. I was barely present in her life. Year after year, I made the trip to Jeddah. Year after year, I had 3 hours with my daughter. Year after year, she recognized me a little less, remembered me a little less, cared about me a little less. By the time Heidi was 5, she was speaking only Arabic. She wore hijab, even though she was just a child. She had been taught that I was not her real mother because I was not properly Muslim, not Saudi, not part of their family. When I tried to tell her stories about when she was a baby, about how I used to rock her to sleep and sing to her, she looked at me like I was making it up. She did not remember any of it. She did not remember me at all. I kept going anyway. I kept making the trip. I kept spending thousands of dollars I could not afford. I kept showing up for those 3 hours because even 3 hours was better than nothing. Even seeing her face, even being in the same room with her, even just knowing she was alive and healthy, was worth everything I had to endure to get it. But it was getting harder. Every visit, I could see that I was becoming less and less important to her. Every visit, she was a little more distant, a little less interested in the toys and books I brought, a little more eager for the visit to be over so she could go back to her real life. When Heidi turned 10 in 2019, something changed. She asked me a question during our visit that year. She said, "Why did you leave me? Why did you not come with me and Daddy to Saudi Arabia? Why did you not try to be with me?" My heart broke into a million pieces. I tried to explain. I said, "Sweetheart, I did not leave you. Daddy took you and would not let you come home. I have been fighting to see you ever since. I have tried everything. I would do anything to be with you." She looked skeptical. She said, "But Daddy says you did not want me, that you chose your life in America over being my mother, that you did not care enough to stay." I said, "That is not true. Heidi, I love you more than anything in the world. Everything I have done has been trying to get back to you." But I could see she did not believe me. Tariq had spent 10 years telling her a different story, and that was the story she believed. I brought proof to the next visit. I brought copies of court documents showing that I had been given custody. I brought copies of emails where I had begged Tariq to bring her home. I brought photos of her nursery in Chicago, photos of me pregnant, photos of her first birthday that we had celebrated together before he took her. She looked at everything, but I could still see the doubt in her eyes. She had been told one story her whole life. I was trying to tell her a different story in 3 hours once a year. It was not enough. It would never be enough. In 2019, after 10 years of this torture, something changed. I got an email from Tariq. He said that Heidi was now 11 years old and old enough to understand more about the situation. He said she wanted to have video calls with me once a month. He said I would have 30 minutes per call, and someone from his family would be present. It was not much, but it was more than I had been getting. I agreed immediately. The first video call was awkward. Heidi was polite, but distant. She asked me questions about America, about my job, about my life. But she did not call me Mom. She called me Jennifer, like I was just someone she knew, not her mother. I tried not to let it hurt. I tried to be grateful that I could at least see her face more than once a year, hear her voice more often. Over the months, the calls got a little easier. Heidi started to open up a bit. She told me about school, about her friends, about things she liked to do. She was interested in science, especially biology. She said she wanted to study medicine someday. I encouraged her. I told her she could be anything she wanted to be. I sent her books about female scientists and doctors. I tried to show her that women could have careers, could make a difference in the world. But I also knew that under Saudi law, her future was limited. She would need her father's permission to go to university. She would need a male guardian's permission to work. She would be expected to marry young, probably to someone Tariq's family chose for her. Her life was already mapped out in ways I had no power to change. When Heidi turned 13, she asked me a question during one of our video calls. She said, "Can I come visit you in America?" I wanted to say yes more than anything in the world, but I knew the truth. I said, "I do not think Daddy will allow that, sweetheart. I have asked many times, but he says no." She said, "Why not? Why can he take me wherever he wants, but I cannot go see you?" I did not know how to explain it to her in a way she would understand. How do you tell a 13-year-old that her father has absolute control over her life simply because she lives in Saudi Arabia and he is a Saudi man? I said, "It is complicated. The laws are different in Saudi Arabia than they are in America. Here, your father has guardianship, which means he makes the decisions about where you can go." She said, "It is not fair. I want to see where you live. I want to meet my grandparents. I want to know more about you." I said, "I want that too, sweetheart. More than anything. I am trying to find a way, but I need your father to agree." I tried. I wrote to Tariq begging him to let Heidi visit. I said it would be supervised, that I would buy a return ticket, that I would promise to send her back. I offered everything I could think of. He refused. He said if Heidi went to America, she would not want to come back. He said she needed to stay in Saudi Arabia where she belonged, where she would be raised properly as a Muslim woman. I was devastated, but not surprised. Then in 2023, something happened that I never expected. Tariq called me directly for the first time in over a decade. He said, "Heidi wants to go to university in America. She has been accepted to several schools. I am considering allowing it." I could not believe what I was hearing. I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yes. But there are conditions. She will need a guardian here, someone I trust. She will not be allowed to stay in America permanently. She will need to return to Saudi Arabia after she finishes her degree. And you will need to pay for half of her education." I said yes to everything immediately. I did not care about the conditions. I just wanted my daughter back. Even if it was temporary. Even if it came with strings attached. Heidi arrived in Chicago in August of 2023. She was 15 years old. It had been 14 years since Tariq had taken her to Saudi Arabia for what was supposed to be a 2-week visit. 14 years of fighting, of begging, of spending every penny I had just to see her for a few hours a year. And now, she was here, in my apartment, with her suitcases, looking at me nervously, unsure of what to say or how to act. I hugged her. She did not hug me back at first, her body stiff and uncomfortable. But then slowly, hesitantly, she put her arms around me. I said, "Welcome home, sweetheart." She said, "This is not my home. My home is in Jeddah." But I did not care. She was here. That was all that mattered. After 14 years, my daughter was finally back with me. The first few months were incredibly difficult. Heidi was adjusting to American culture, to living with me, to being away from the only family she had really known. She was homesick constantly, She called Tariq's family every day, sometimes multiple times a day. She cried a lot, especially at night. I tried to give her space. I tried not to push too hard. I just wanted her to feel safe, to know that I loved her and had never stopped loving her. Slowly, things got better. Heidi started making friends at the university. She joined some clubs. She started to enjoy her classes, especially her biology courses. She began talking about her dreams, about maybe specializing in pediatric medicine someday, about helping children, and she started to open up to me. She started asking questions about what had really happened all those years ago. Why I had not come with her to Saudi Arabia. What had happened between me and her father. I told her the truth. I told her everything. About how Tariq had taken her without my permission. About how I had tried everything to get her back. About the laws in Saudi Arabia that gave him all the power. About the 14 years of 3-hour visits and 30-minute phone calls. About how much I had loved her and missed her every single day. She cried when I told her. She said, "I did not know. Daddy told me you had abandoned me, that you did not care. I spent my whole life thinking you did not want me." I said, "I wanted you more than anything in the world. You are my daughter. I love you. I have always loved you. Everything I did was trying to get back to you." She said, "I believe you now. But I wish I had known sooner. I wish I had not spent so many years thinking you did not love me. We are working on rebuilding our relationship now. It is not perfect. Heidi is still loyal to Tariq and his family. She still defends him when I express any criticism. She still plans to go back to Saudi Arabia after she graduates. She says that is her culture, her family, her home. I try not to argue with her about it. I try to just be grateful for the time I have with her now, because I know it is temporary. I know that in a few years she will graduate and return to Saudi Arabia, and I do not know what will happen then, if she will stay there permanently, if she will be forced to marry someone she does not love, if I will lose her all over again. But for now, she is here. For now, I get to see her every day. For now, I get to be her mother in a way I have not been able to be for 14 years. And that has to be enough, because it is all I have. I live in constant fear that Tariq will change his mind, that he will demand she come back early, that something will happen, and I will lose her again. That fear never goes away. It sits in the back of my mind every moment of every day. I also worry about what will happen when she does go back to Saudi Arabia. Will she be forced into a marriage arranged by her father? Will she lose the independence and aspiration she has gained here? Will she be trapped under Saudi guardianship laws that give fathers and male relatives absolute control over women's lives? I cannot protect her from that. I have no power in Saudi Arabia. I have no legal rights there. I can only hope that I have given her enough tools, enough education, enough confidence to fight for herself if she needs to. This is my story. The story of how I lost my daughter to Saudi Arabia for 14 years. The story of how a legal system that does not value mothers, that does not believe women have rights, took my child from me. And there was nothing I could do about it. I am not the only mother with this story. There are dozens, maybe hundreds of Western women who married Saudi men, who had children with them, who lost those children when the men took them to Saudi Arabia and never brought them back. Saudi Arabia is not a Hague Convention country. That means there is no international treaty, no legal mechanism to force the return of children taken there. If your ex-partner takes your child to Saudi Arabia, you will almost certainly never get them back. The US government cannot help you. The embassy cannot help you. Human rights organizations cannot help you. You are completely powerless. I want every Western woman considering marrying a Saudi man to understand what you are risking. Even if your partner seems modern, even if he says he does not care about traditional gender roles, even if he promises you will have equal rights, the law in Saudi Arabia will not see it that way. Under Saudi law, fathers have absolute guardianship rights. Mothers have no legal standing. If you have children with a Saudi man and the marriage fails, he can take those children to Saudi Arabia, and you will likely never see them again. If you are already in this situation, if your children have been taken to Saudi Arabia, I want you to know that you are not alone. There are support groups, organizations trying to help. The fight is almost impossible, but you do not have to face it alone. I was allowed 3 hours once a year with my daughter. 3 hours that I had to beg for, that I had to travel thousands of miles for, that cost me everything I had. 3 hours to try to maintain a relationship with a child who barely knew me. No mother should have to live like that. No child should be used as a weapon like that. And no legal system should allow it. But until the laws change, until Saudi Arabia reforms its guardianship system, until there is international pressure to protect the rights of mothers and children, this will keep happening. My daughter is with me now, temporarily. But for 14 years, I lost her. 14 years of birthdays and holidays and first days of school. 14 years of watching her grow up through brief glimpses and supervised visits. 14 years of being erased from her life and told I did not matter. That is the reality of marrying a Saudi national and having children. That is what you risk. And I want everyone to understand that before it is too late. If this story opened your eyes, if it helped you understand something you did not know was happening, please share it. Please help other women understand the risks before they marry someone from Saudi Arabia or another country with similar guardianship laws. And if you have experienced something similar, please share your story in the comments. Let other mothers know they are not alone. Let the world know what is happening. Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications for more stories about mothers fighting impossible battles across international borders and legal systems. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here.